sprint final. My name is Brian Smith, and again I'll be guiding you through the stage today. So 151.6 kilometres, starting in Delphi, and we'll head towards the Gulf of Corinth and head along the coast up the Suchosi Pigi, the highest climb that we've got in this race. Second climb of the day, a third category climb onto the flatlands, heading over through Petra. Get the first sprint of the day. Then Thiva, where we get the second sprint. Then we head slightly kind of north to the coast and towards the island of Ubobia. Chalkida is the stage town where we finished today. So 2 King of the Mountains, 2 sprints, and an expected sprint finish in Chalkida. So downhill start in the neutralisation up to the highest point at 656 metres, and we'll continue throughout the day up and down. So that's a look down from Delphi to the Gulf of Corinth as they prepare for today's stage. We did have a battle between Jaco Alula and XTS Astana yesterday. The Greek team with their national champion Arvanatu, best young rider yesterday, was in fact Bogdan Zabolensky. Had a little bit of trouble with the sign on with the weather conditions. Harold Lopez, well, he wanted to win yesterday, but this is the man that did, Luke Platt. So the riders were geared up for the rain. It's quite a damp start, and of course downhill from Delphi. We came up here yesterday, continued up to the finish at Avanchova, but with these conditions the riders were well wrapped up. The finish, we've had a couple of showers, but in general it's been a sunny day. So as we started, we came down off the climb onto the drier roads, and soon the riders would be dispensing of those capes because the weather conditions had improved a lot, about 16 degrees, so there was no need for the capes for many of these riders, and there was constant attacks as we came down to the Gulf of Corinth, and we started up the longest climb of this race, in fact. Suchosi Pigi is a bit of a piggy to get up here. 11.9 kilometres in length, 5.3 average, but we did have 3 riders, and over the top it was a battle between Radcliffe and Dorn, and Dorn for Bike Aid came over the top, first place, taking the 10 points at the second category climb. Radcliffe had to settle for second and 7 points. The other breakaway rider was Nicholas Sessler. But this is Distomo, pretty village with a sad history. The Distomo massacre was here, and we'll see the monument soon, which was perpetrated by the German army back in the Second World War against the locals, constituted as a war crime. And this is the monument, the Distomo massacre, dedicated towards those that lost their life and were massacred. It was in fact retribution for previous death of 3 Germans at the hands of local guerrillas, even though the villagers had no relation to the guerrillas. This is indeed a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So an uphill start, then gradually kind of downhill, rolling along towards the coast to the, we actually go on to Uboya, well not quite onto Uboya, towards Uboya, at the finish in Chalkida. So 3 riders in the breakaway as we see them here. So we know about George Radcliffe. He won maximum points in the first day to gain the King of the Mountains, lost out yesterday. He now sits second in that competition. The leader being Plapp with his 15 points at the finish. We now have Radcliffe on 12, and the new man on the block, the rider at the front, is Vincent Dorn of Bikehead, the 26-year-old German rider, taking the 10 points. So he pops into third in that competition. And for the ride, Nicholas Sessler from the Victoria Sports. First time we've really seen Victoria Sports in this race in the breakaway. The Brazilian. So only 3 riders. It was very active before the climb, and really as expected. We have the sprinters teams towards the fronts. We have Jacob Lula in the purple, looking at the Dutch champion. Just see him there, the red top to his national champs jersey, white helmet, Dylan Groenewegen. And he'll be hoping to get that victory that he came close in day one. And then of course you've got Q36.5, blue body, white sleeves, white helmet. And by the looks of things, XDS Astana are just going to look after Harold Lopez today. So these 3 riders, no real danger in the general classification. Vincent Dorn at the front there, 15 minutes and 43. Nicholas Sessler in the green, 15 minutes and 24. Radcliffe 17 minutes and 3. But we are getting close to the top of the climb. Only the second climb of the day, a third category climb, and we're starting to see the games now. Vincent Dorn beats Radcliffe in the second category climb, the big climb of the day. So the games have started. He currently sits second and third in the competition. Radcliffe, if he can win over the top of this climb, he will actually take the jersey back after stage 1. Doesn't want Sessler just to roll over the top and take these points away, but Dorn last year took the King of the Mountains title in the Tour of Turkey. So Radcliffe, the 21-year-old, is up against some good German opposition today, the 26-year-old. The top of this climb coming in about 1200 metres time. And this is only a third category climb, 5, 3, 2 and 1 seconds, points. And this is out at Koralithos Tower. Again, this was dedicated to the Greek resistance during World War II. So Sessler leading out here. Radcliffe, he's aware he was beaten already today. Can he take these maximum points? If he doesn't and Dorn takes it and Radcliffe, we will have 3 riders on 15 points in that competition. Plapp will still own the jersey, courtesy of winning the first category climb at the finish yesterday in Aranchova. So like stage 1, big day for Q36.5 and Jacob. And there he goes. Radcliffe goes for this one. He takes this one on from the front. What has Dorn got? Can he come round him? Dorn is just sitting and waiting, getting closer to the line. Can he get round him? It's between Radcliffe and Dorn. It's going to be a close one. Oh. By the reaction there, I think Dorn just got that one. But we'll wait for official confirmation. And it's a wave. So by the looks of things, it's a close call there, but it looks like as if Vincent Dorn took that one. You could hear the disappointment from Radcliffe. We see the gamesmanship was starting to play further down the climb. Very important, as I said, if Radcliffe had taken the maximum points, he would have had that jersey back, which he gained on stage 1. But Dorn just played one just to the last moment there. He was patient. Quick acceleration. I think just got him there in the end. It's a disappointment for the Brits, the 21-year-old from Leeds. But it's not all over yet, because Dorn taking another 5 points, so that's 15 points he's taken in total today. Zessler 3, so add to the 12 he's already got. He'll be on 15, so they're absolutely equal on points. Luke Plapp taking 15 points yesterday. But Luke Plapp will have that jersey. But this man here, I think, will wear that jersey courtesy of winning that second category climb. So it'll go down and count back to how many categorised climbs you won. And this man won the second category climb at the start of today's stage. So we had a little bit of sun come out. You can just see Luke Plapp there in the black top there. The rest of his team in the purple. But Plapp, a good win yesterday. I think it's his first win in Europe for the Australian. 3 times national champion in the past. He's had some really good results. But he needs to find 3 seconds. So we're going to have showers throughout the day, although this morning had a nice run along the coast. The sun was shining. Had a bit of lunch before I came into the commentary box. The sun was still shining, but while I was preparing, I could hear the rain coming down, and it is predicted a little bit later on as well. And this will really test out the riders come the finish, because it is a really tricky finish. I ran the last 2 kilometres and there's some sharp corners, a little bit of descent onto the Bay Road, and it twists and turns all the way in towards the finish. In fact, the organisation have moved the 3 kilometre rule today to 5 kilometres, just for a little bit more on the safety side of things. Of course, that doesn't really affect the sprinters. They'll be going flat out, but for the GC contenders, we saw it in stage 1 where we had a crash just about 4.3, 4.4 kilometres from the finish. Some riders losing time on the general classification. Still 115 riders in this race. We've only lost 5 riders. So we did lose, I think, 3 riders from that crash, unfortunately. So some dangers in the finish today, and hopefully that rain will stay off. But these 3 riders, with the King of the Mountains done and dusted, there's only 3 of them. It's a long way to the finish, just under 96 kilometres. So my question would be, why risk just riding flat out? Over the first couple of days, we've had 7 riders in the first stage breakaway, 9 riders in the second. Zessler saying he has to eat so he can fuel the motor. Come across Zessler before in the Tour of Britain. Always a rider that tries to get in the breakaway. You have to keep fueling, although it's only a shortish stage today of 151.5 kilometres. So the gap went up over 5 minutes. It's coming down to 3:47 now. But the big question, with a big day tomorrow, we have 2 first category climbs early in the stage and a second category. 3,764 metres of climbing. If I was in the car, I'd probably maybe asking Radcliffe and Dorn, who are now equal in points, what are they going to gain from today's stage? It'd be a little bit different if this group was sizable like the other previous days of 7 and 9, but with only 3 riders, it's a lot of energy. And now being climbed to possibly ask George Radcliffe from X-Speeds, the 21-year-old, possibly just to drift back into the peloton and save energy for tomorrow, because he's going to need it. Because it looks as if Vincent Dorn is up for this one. He has got past history in other races of winning the King of the Mountains. With the two first category climbs tomorrow on the islands of Euboea, which is the second largest island in Greece after Crete. Although you talk to a few locals and they say it's not an island because there's a very small bridge of only about 40 metres separating it as an island. So the three continue for the moment, but let's see how this develops over the coming kilometres. So Jaco Alula in the purple and Q36.5 will do the job as they did on stage one. You can see the new leader in not too dissimilar to his team jersey of XDS Astana. He's just on the back wheel of Luke Plapp. Even at this stage, not allowing Luke Plapp to go anywhere at all. So Luke Plapp in that black jersey. Harold Lopez, the Ecuadorian, who's disappointed yesterday, wasn't he? Big opportunity to take even more seconds. But Luke Plapp just had enough left to come up the inside and nab that victory, and more importantly, the 10 bonus seconds that went with it. Of course, they were separated by 7 seconds during the day. So Harold Lopez has that leader's jersey. Whether he'll be able to continue with that jersey, yet to be seen. I think the danger for that is, when I was just talking about what Dorn and Sessler and Radcliffe do in a 3-rider breakaway, knowing what happened in stage one when there was 7 riders away. Only 3 of them, 3:42. It's going to be a hard task if they've any thoughts. And of course, both of them flying the King of the Mountains flag as well, and a big day tomorrow. I'm not too sure. But the thing is, for us fans and viewers, there is a bonus sprint. Oh, there's 2 still to come. 66.2 to go to the finish and 38.8. And if they were to come back, then there would be seconds available for the peloton. So Luke Plapp, if he's going to win this race, here he is. Big win yesterday for him and the team. Disappointed after Dylan Groenewegen got beat by Matteo in the first stage. I think for Luke Plapp, he has to find those 3 seconds somewhere. Will it be in the big stage tomorrow? Will he get the opportunities? Of course, in stage 5 there is a sprint very close to the start. So there is potential, but for the moment anyway, our leader is Harold Lopez, the Ecuadorian, sitting with his team in that cyan jersey as the race leader. So is it going to be another duel between Matteo Moschetti and Dylan Groenewegen today, or is there anybody else going to get involved? I really do think it's going to be a really tricky finish. The run-in, just about 1,500 metres to go. The only real flat part or straight part is the 100 metres just before the finishing line. As it constantly twists lefts and rights, sharp corners. Bit of a steep descent as we come onto the bay. It's wide enough, but it's just the constant lefts and rights. And Dylan Groenewegen The Dutch champion is here for a reason, and that's to win a stage. But of course, they dearly love to win a stage and take overall honours as well. So the Dutch champion made a mistake in the first stage, opening the door, allowing Moschetti to come up the inside. And of course, you could argue that's what Luke Plapp did yesterday to Harold Lopez. Just came up the inside, took the shortest way around to the finishing line. It was a good battle out there. You can see just before the finish in Anchová, the race leader Harold Lopez was attacking a lot. I think Plapp only attacked it once. It took a while, 4.5 kilometres, for Harold Lopez to manage to get up. He was complaining a little bit about the motorbikes in front. I think there was too many motorbikes from possibly the race commissaires getting involved there, and he was complaining about them. But eventually he got up to the wheel of Plapp, and the duo battled it out, as we saw yesterday. But this race isn't over. Just looking at the general classification, and we have 14 riders within 30 seconds, with 25 riders within 1 minute. I'm not too sure where you're going to find 1 minute, but 30 seconds is doable, and there's a lot of riders even at 15 seconds. In fact, there are 9 riders, and quality riders at that, at 15 seconds. So 10, 6 and 4 on the finishing line, plus the bonuses out on the roads. But majority of the bonuses so far, I would suspect, would be taken by the breakaway riders. I did expect probably a larger breakaway today. So a lot of teams missed out in this one. Sometimes says that they think they've got someone that can get up there for a sprint finish. But looking at the routes, I was thinking to myself, this could be a sprinter's day, or it could be a breakaway. Tomorrow is going to be a really tough GC day tomorrow. I think the last stage, is going to be for the sprinters, almost kind of nailed on in the circuits around Athens. And this is Tiva, and Tiva will be the host of our, just after Tiva is our second sprint of the day, as we can see. And if you look north, you can see that there is a bit of rain in the area at the moment. There's also a bit of rain in the peloton, and Plapp already got a rain jacket on, pulling another one on. 14 degrees. Maybe the Aussie feeling a little bit of the cold, wants to stay as warm as possible. Moschetti with his clear glasses on. It's always a difficulty trying to get the zip up. The first part is always the most difficult. Michael Hepburn, quality rider is Michael Hepburn. Same with Luca Meesgets. But both of these riders for Jaco Alula, 100% over the last kind of couple of years, are totally focused on helping the team. And you often get that. You look at a rider's palmares and you see how well they've done in the past. You see the leaders of these jerseys. Plapp. Well, he'll hold that one again. It was a good ride by Bogdan Zablinskaya from the Cypriot team, the national team. That was a big surprise for me and possibly many others. And what a result that would be if he remained on the podium. Of course, there are many others not that far behind him. But the three continue at the front. With George Ratcliffe here in the dark blue from X-Speed. Nicholas Sessler, Victoria Sports, a Brazilian. Good to see that having a bit of a chat and a smile. Pat in the back for Vincent Dorn. Nice sportsmanship there by Radcliffe. He was beaten fair and square come the end by slightly more experienced rider, Vincent Dorn. Same speed. It's always hard to judge if they're going slightly downhill or slightly up. But the gap still coming down. And it does look as if this is Hamish Mackenzie again. And there's 1-1-1 in the breakaway. Zabok for Machowski. 2 days in a row. Probably feeling it a little bit today. So the team from Cyprus have got something to shout about. Having a third place in general classification, or having the best young rider. Third place is in fact Bogdan Zabelinski, but he's equal in time to 9 other riders. Ricardo Zoido, last year's champion. He was there and thereabouts yesterday. Finished 24th. Sits at 58 seconds, and that was the 58th. Well, he lost 48 seconds, and then another 10 seconds bonus added to that, so 58 seconds down. Sessler just looking for a bottle. He's getting on some instruction now, talking to his manager. And is this the case where he's been told it might be better to wait for tomorrow rather than waste a little bit of energy? 3 minutes is a decent enough gap, but in these conditions, and if he is really going for that King of the Mountains title, which I know he is, you could hear him when he went over the top of that climb, when he was beat by less than a wheel over the top. He wasn't a happy bunny. Lopez, the leader of this race, sitting towards the front, keeping out of trouble. Some say that it's probably a little bit easier to sit further in the group, but of course if you sit further in the group, you do risk more riders that are in front of you, the more risk there is. The trials and tribulations of putting your rain jacket on. So far so good. You just have to get that zip. In the past they used Velcro sometimes, which made it a little bit easier. Just don't do this at home. I had a bad habit when I stopped cycling of trying to do this. All it needs is a bit of wind and it can hit you from the side. If you're out in a club run or doing anything, probably a lot easier to stop at the side of the road, do up your zip and off you go again. But of course these pro bike riders doing this day in, day out. So for the moment anyway, Nicholas Sessler ploughing a furrow towards the finishing town of Chalkida. And for the moment anyway, he's got Vincent Dorn and George Radcliffe helping him along the way. So we've come off most of the climbs now. Got a couple of lumps and bumps in towards the finish. 2:36.5 at the front here again with Jaco Lula in the purple. Same two teams. Gleb Saritsa on the left hand side. He did his job yesterday at the bottom of the climb. What can he do in this final? I think, like day one, he will be on his own. I don't think they'll risk anything. I think make sure that Harold Lopez gets inside the last 5 kilometres. Just make sure he stays in the group and out of trouble. Because I really do think this is a very, very tricky finish. And if it's damp, it'll be even trickier. So it looks like a second opportunity for these riders now for a sprint. Not writing these off. Moschetti, he's ranked 5 along with Dylan Groenewegen. Gleb Syriza 3. I'd probably put him a 4. Timothy DuPont 4th in the first stage. Konishev Avance. Good ride by him. I think we'll see him again today. Buglis, Avenatu, and again Miesgets is in there, but Miesgets, well, he's the last lead out, isn't he, for Dylan Groenewegen? So now onto these flat. It's not too windy today, but there is a bit of a wind. You can see that affecting the rider a little bit now. George Ratcliffe, he does really get in a super aero position, almost legal there. He's forearms on the bars, touching the levers. A lot of controversy in that position in the past. You have to make contact with the levers. A lot of these riders bending the levers in at the front to make sure they do it and comply. And I really do hope that the sun does come out for the final here. Such a lovely coastal town is Chalkida. So it's a day of jackets on, jackets off for most of these riders. About 14 degrees. It's not overly cold. And what you find sometimes is when it dries a little bit like it does now, it's probably a bit better to get that wet jacket, that long sleeve off. So Sessler, a 30-year-old Brazilian, he's been around a few different teams in the past. First came to my attention in the Tour of Britain not that long ago. It's the first time we've really kind of seen this team in this race. For the breakaway of 7. And then a breakaway of 9 yesterday. You can just see the dark clouds in the background there. But for the moment anyway, they're in the dry, in the sun. Majority of the action in the peloton is at the back here. There's a lot of riders going back to get their jackets, and with these showers it's constant, cars up and down. So Sessler has been around. He was in the Israel Cycling Academy team. Went to Burgos for a couple of years, or 3 years in fact, Global 6. And so last year he's been with this team, Victoria Sports Pro Cycling team. He's had no major victories, although he did win the Tour of Salalah in 2024. Started off the year in the Emirates, a Tour of Sharjah, Tour de Taiwan as well. He never finished that. Then he's come here. So the sun is shining, but for how long? Gap still coming down, 2:43 now. You see the man in third place there, and it's a man from XTS Astana, Alessio Delvidov. I rode all day yesterday, fantastic effort. So the three still together. Still happy to take trade turns at the front after the battle for the King of the Mountains between Dawn and Radcliffe. We now have 3 riders on 15 points. So Dawn, Radcliffe and Plapp. So steady away for the peloton. They're well in control. There's another shortish stage today of 151 kilometres. Maximum elevation gain 1619. Most of that is behind the riders now. You add over 2,000 tomorrow for another GC battle. It's the rider there, Pierre-Henri Basset, that crashed in the corner just before Delphi. Dylan Groenewegen just about to put his gloves on. It's all about conserving energy. Staying warm, comfortable, 14 degrees too many is warm enough. I didn't mind these conditions, but your body needs your energy and you need to try and keep warm. It's always very difficult when you go through rain showers, because you get cold, you get warm, you get cold again. And many of these teams and riders will have the rain bags in the car behind, so it'll be constantly swapping. But if you're working hard like the three in front, there's no need for any rain jackets to hold you back. You see the high mountains nearby. I've left most of them behind where we finished up yesterday. Taranchova. There is a ski resort further up at 2,400 metres. Some of the personnel were showing me some photographs of their skiing trips. Like I said in commentary yesterday, totally different field. Most people come to Greece. In fact, I have quite often. Most come to the islands. I've been very impressed by the mainland. This is what I was saying yesterday. Did you see what Diego Alesi said it did there? Sometimes better to stop than struggle and put your jacket on, because anytime you take your hands off the bars, you do struggle. So for Harold Lopez, he's just got a bit of wisdom there from his team leader, or his team captain. Diego Alesi just telling him to stop and put his jacket on. And of course Diego Alesi will stay with him and then bring him back to the front. But yesterday up in Taranchova, very much like being in the Alps somewhere in Switzerland. These heaters in the restaurants, magnificent views, rugs, everything to keep you warm. So Vincent Dorn, still young at 26. Winner of the King of the Mountains in the Tour of Turkey last year. He's only raced Tour de Rwanda this year. Finished 45th in the general classification. Best place being on a stage was 40th. No major wins to his palmares. This is Gonzalez here, a Panama champion. A take of the bag, as I was saying in the commentary yesterday, a little bit easier to take the fabric of a bag rather than the wet bottle. I think this is Harm van Hoeken at the front. For Q36.5. So still with these three riders, quite happy and content to keep riding. 2 minutes and 30. They will all be given the same information of what's happening. Had just over 5 minutes. We've got 2 sprints coming up and then the finish. This time it's Dawn. A lot easier to put a ghillie on and a long sleeve cape. And then it's about just zipping that up. So that would suggest just easing a little bit in the breakaway, not working as hard as they have done. Vincent Dawn is pulling on that ghillie. Normally when you're working hard, you don't really kind of feel the cold as much. So successfully achieved. Ghillie on. Back to hard work on these flattish roads, 5 kilometres now to the first sprint of the day. So we won't see any action from the peloton. Will we see any action from the 3 in fronts? Or will they roll through this one? I don't think any of them are looking for the seconds, because they're all over 15 and 17 minutes down in the general classification. And I don't think they're looking for the points in the points competition. Morning was so nice here. They say they were threatening thunderstorms throughout the afternoon. Simone Zanini, another young rider that did a good job yesterday at the bottom of the climb. Didn't Vorarlberg do well yesterday with Colin Stussy? He's still up there in the general classification. He was the instigator on the climb yesterday. So the gap still continuing to drop down a little bit at a time. 70 kilometres go, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. You just see that the aero socks used by Radcliffe there, the over socks there. Just a couple of kilometres now, 3 in fact, to the first sprint of the day. I'm not too sure we'll see too much action at this sprint. Nothing too much to gain. Looks like Gleb Syriza possibly going back to maybe get a jacket. Soon we may have the whole peloton in black. Arm warmers for some. the same when the race isn't flat out. Armi Santi had a good top 10 along with his teammates. Timothy DuPont in stage 1. You see Glebseric says dropping back on the right hand side. Just talking in the radio, asking what he wants. The mechanic will be over the back seats, grabbing that wet weather bag with Glebseric's name on it, rifling through it to get what he requires. Looks as if he's taking his gilet off, possibly putting a rain jacket on. So I said most of these teams will have a bag in the back of the car with a name on it. And in that is spare clothing. The good thing about being in the breakaway is when you put your hand up, the car is soon up alongside you to help and give you what you require. In the peloton you have to drop all the way to the back and behind the commissaire car. And then if you're riding at the front, you have to go all the way to the back again, all the way to the front. So for these riders, a lot of gels, bars, everything, keep the energy high. They're taking more calories per hour in. Almost double than they did previously. Average speed so far after 2 hours of racing, just a tad under 40 kilometers an hour. Another good job being done by Jaco Alula in Q36.5 so far. You can only think if you're in the breakaway, then they're going to be successful again in bringing you back. That's why I was questioning why George Redcliffe in the breakaway in the first stage, in the breakaway today, battling it out, big day tomorrow. Possibly needs to save some energy. So 500 metres to go, and it looks as if this is going to be the first sprint. They may not want to sprint against each other. Nothing really to gain here for either of these riders, whether it's points for the points competition or seconds for the general classification. It'll just be a roll through in this one. I think the peloton will be happy, especially Harold Lopez. But Vincent Dorn deciding he wants to take the maximum. Radcliffe doesn't know why. So just rolling through that sprint was Vincent Dorn. So the first sprint out the way for the riders, and it was in fact Dorn from Radcliffe from Sessler. So it looks as if Vincent Dorn, the 26-year-old German rider riding for Bikeaid, wants to take everything today. With the gap at 1 minute and 50 seconds. very much doubt the stage will be up for grabs. So we've had a mountain competition today, and now we are 3 riders at the top of the leaderboards. Still Plamp holding on, all riders having 15 points. So Plamp will lead the competition purely because he took a first category climb yesterday. The points competition is still very close as well. So Plamp and Moschetti on 15 points. Dylan Grunewig at 14 points, so that's still very much open, depending on the sprint. Bogdan Zabalinsky from Cyprus leads in the Best Young Rider competition. Thomas Prido, the Czech rider, same time, so it's just a count back on your stage places. And the American Gary Kelly 7 seconds down, so still close in that competition. On the team competition, Unibet Titama Rockets lead that from 15 seconds to ATT Investments, the Czech team. Q36.5, 27 seconds down. For some teams, the team competition isn't important, but to some it is indeed. And by saying that, I allude to Movistar. I think 1 year alone they won the team competition in all 3 Grand Tours. So they take great pride in looking at that competition themselves. So not tumbling down, but continuing to drop down this gap. A few seconds here and there, as we continue to get even closer to these dark clouds. And this is the reason why the race organisation decided that they would take the 3 kilometre rule out, put a 5 kilometre rule in, and that means that if there's any crashes, punctures, any mishaps at all in the last 5 kilometres, you'll be given the same time as the group you were in. Hence, the GC contenders can relax a little bit. Sun just shining as well now, but still riders putting their capes on. Nice to see some of the locals coming out. Got to talk to a few of them in the Greenio in the first stage. A few of them were asking me what was happening. The peloton almost colour blocked in black, such as the material that these rain capes are made of. And still 3 riders of Vincent Dorn from Bikehead, Nicholas Sessler of Victoria Sports, and George Radcliffe of Xspeed continue through this village here. So another busy day for the mechanics and team staff at the back. It's constant up and down the convoy as riders dropping back to change kit, get dry kit, put a ghillie on, take a ghillie off, put a jacket on, take a jacket off. No chance for the mechanic to have a little bit of nap in this stage. See Glebsaritsa, he's got his jacket on, he went back to the car, changed out his ghillie with his teammate there. Zanini keeping that ghillie on. Different riders deal with these situations, different to others, of course being Scottish. You don't get used to the rain, it's just you have to learn how to deal with it. Looks like a puncture for one of the Q36.5 riders. Is that Muschetti? Has had a puncture there. I would say definitely one of the favourites, but the way he can bash Dylan Grunewagen in the Green Hill, you'd have to say that he is the favourite. Looks super fast. And talking about fast, he set one of the fastest sprints I've ever recorded in the Alula Tour. So the gap now under 2 minutes, 60 kilometres to go. So we're through the Petra sprint. Next is the Tiva sprint before we start to head in towards the finishing line. Still quite surprised that Radcliffe is deciding to stay. I know he's made an effort to be in the breakaway and in this race, and when it's gone out to the rest of the world, it's always important for your sponsors to stay there. But with a big day ahead tomorrow, and if the King of the Mountains is the team's goal, I just feel that with 2 minutes advantage, just under 60 kilometres to go, it's going to be a tough ask. So the work continually be done by the Australian team, Jake Lula at the front, together with the Swiss team, Q36.5. Shaking out the arms just to get the circulation into the hands. 14 degrees they're saying. It'll feel a little bit cooler obviously in the cold. And sometimes when you've got that long sleeve top on, riding at the front, it kind of cools you down a little bit more, having a wet garment on. A couple of riders just making people aware, just shaking their hands out. Thunderstorm ahead, and you saw the flash there. So the riders, when they thought they were wet, they're going to get even wetter. And how can that be? So yeah, just heading into the eye of the storm now. Might not be the hardest of stages, but in these conditions you don't sit on the wheel so close. Very difficult to see. I think George Radcliffe just asking. Sessler get his arm warmers on. He's not gone for the rain jacket yet. Vincent Dorn, well, he has his gilet on. When will the Brit from Leeds decide to succumb to putting a rain jacket on? It's always a difficult stage when it's like this, trying to stay warm, trying to stay focused. These kind of miserable conditions. Not only have you got the rain, the spray coming up, the rain really coming down now. Often the cameras don't really show the rain, but when you see the rain in the camera shot, it means it is coming down very, very hard. Still, when the sun's out, beautiful part of the world, very different from the islands. I believe there's over 2,000 of them, and we're heading to the second largest one. We actually finish still on the mainland at Chalkida, and in fact our hotel was over in the island of Euboea. There's a 40-metre bridge connecting, a swing bridge. Two bridges. There's a modern bridge now. They still do have the old swing bridge. So I think the three riders are still together. What's a peloton? Yeah, not nice conditions. Even on you're on the motorbike and the cameraman as well. And I've been told this is quite normal. For us Brits, we think of Greece as a very hot land. Well, it does, it gets well over 40 in the summer. But the skiing and snowboarding here in the winter months, there's still some snow up in the mountains when we passed yesterday. And this is springtime, and springtime brings with it thunderstorms and rain. At least some riders have got something to be happy about. So the gap still hovering around the 2-minute mark. Just under 55 kilometres to go. It's difficult being in the breakaway with only 3 riders. You have to do it a little bit longer at the front. This Novo Nordisk team, I remind everybody within this team is type 1 diabetes. And the reason for that team being around is to empower other similar types to keep active. I don't think there's a lot of smiling in the peloton. I'd rather have a job to do than just sit in it. And the job is being done by Jaco Lula in Q36.5. I can say I've just opened the door of the commentary box and it looks as if it's dry outside. So 50 kilometres away, we get through this storm, fingers crossed, we might have a dry finish. The sun may come out and put his hat on. So Cecil at the front here from Brazil, 30-year-old. Vincent Dorn, 26-year-old German for Bike Aids. The Brits, 21-year-old from Leeds in the UK, George Ratcliffe from X-Speed. There was multiple attacks earlier on, and these were the 3 riders that managed to stay away. Vincent Dorn, he never had any King of the Mountains points before today. Already taken 15. It's now equal in points to Plapp, and of course Radcliffe. Radcliffe himself was in the breakaway in the first stage. Never got involved with any sprints, saved it all for the only King of the Mountains. Took the jersey. Never got himself in the breakaway the next day. Lost out. So now we have 3 riders equal in points. Again, a lot of shaking out of the hands, just getting that circulation in them. And sometimes when you get the cold, the rain, and you're in that kind of aggressive position on a bike, sometimes your hands get a little bit numb. And what are they saying to each other in the breakaway? Athanasio from Cyprus. They've got a man to protect. 3rd place in general classification. Best young rider is in fact Bogdan Zabelinskaya. I think either being in the breakaway or on the front of the peloton is the only place to be if you want to try and keep warm. It looks as if it's only Jaco Lula now. Just remind everybody that Q36.5 only started with 5 riders in this race, so they cannot use up too much personnel. Who would want to be a bike rider on a day like this? Or be riding on a motorbike? I didn't mind days like this, of course. I used to just, what motivated me the most was the fact that I knew that other people didn't like it. But hopefully the riders will get out the other side. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of sun. I can say that 51 kilometres away it's dry. I hope they don't bring the storm with them. So not much of a wind, 2 kilometres an hour from the south. So I don't think this storm cloud is going anywhere fast anyway. And now we see Radcliffe just getting that gilet on. And days like today, it can be tough mentally. There's not so much chit chat. At least Radcliffe's got a bit of a smile. Don't think that's a grimace. In days like today, it can be rather mental than anything else, especially if you're sitting in the peloton. And that's where either your team captain or your sports director has to keep you focused. Especially when we get into the last kind of 20 kilometres. If you fall asleep, anything can happen. Touch a wheel. You have to keep totally focused in days like today. It's definitely, as they say in the UK, a day for ducks. And I would think that most of the intake in fluids will be cold, or the cold nature. I don't think it's cold enough yet. When it's really cold, we used to get hot tea and honey. And of course, a lot of the locals here, I think by popular choice, they drink a lot of iced tea and iced coffee. I think it's the only coffee shops I've been in, and they've asked me, do I want ice in my coffee or not? So the Greeks like a cold coffee, and it's constantly in their hands all day. Looks so easy in the peloton. Timothy DuPont there for Tartalezzo Isarix in these Akoi helmets. Good 4th place for the veteran sprinter. 37-year-old, 12 victories. Probably some other victories in Belgium in the Kermes racing. As you can see, not a lot of chit chat. What is going through the minds of these riders? I know for the riders at the front, let's just get this job done. So Q36.5, just putting the rider up towards the front. Whether he went back, I think it's Han van Hoeke. I've just gone back to get a jacket on, change his jacket. Now Sessler gets his jacket on. this is a stage of the jacket change. It's a tough day out for these riders in the breakaway. Bit of standing water. Just when you thought the rain was coming straight down, well, it's coming straight from the side now, right hand side. So the wind has picked up ever so slightly. Cecil just back at the car, putting his jacket on. Looks like he's getting gloves on as well. When I left London, it was sunny blue skies and 15 degrees. I flew into Athens a few days ago now, a couple of days before the race. Got picked up. After 5 minutes, the rain came on. And I told them I never came to Greece to see the rain. And they promised me it would clear up, and it did. But then the rain came again and again. But I'm looking forward. I'm coming back to one of the Greek islands in 4 weeks' time. So I asked them to make sure that it was sun every day, which they have promised. So Gleb Syriza, the same face he had on yesterday, not a happy one. I think he's only happiest when he's sprinting. Vincent Dorn's looking to see where his breakaway companion is. Puts his hand up, wants something from the car. Still a little bit surprised that they haven't given up. But like I say, for a lot of these teams, just being in the breakaway in a race like this, when you've got the TV cameras, every little bit of mention for your sponsors, any view at all, it's important. So George Radcliffe just going back to his car, so they're all going back to their cars pretty much at the same time. What is the questions being asked? What do they want? And it is a jacket for Dorn. Keeps us guessing. So do you want a gel bottle? No, I'll have a jacket, please. I get a little bit of a change at the front now. And I think this is for Q30 6.5 Walter Calzone. I think it's the Spaniard from Barcelona. I think his goal is to ride the Volta a Catalunya and win the final stage around Montjuic in Barcelona. He's a Spaniard that doesn't mind mixing it up in his pizza, putting a bit of pineapple in it. I think just to upset the Italians. So Vincent Dorn just putting his cape on. Cessler's already got his cape on. Radcliffe just the dually on for the moment anyway. I think Calzone, he used to play a little bit of rugby at school, but he didn't grow as much as many of the other classmates. Thought it was a little bit too dangerous. Tried a bit of running, got an injury, eventually took to cycling. It's just some stories like that, until they've been told to you, you never really know. Vincent Dorn really struggling with his cape. I think he's just trying to get that. And sometimes you leave it too late, your hands are cold. A lot of standing water now. So when your hands are cold, you just cannot get that zip in. It's a little bit easier to stop. But when you're in the breakaway, you don't want to stop. There's a few unhappy people in the peloton. Of course, in these conditions, in standing water, you see the peloton are sitting up a little bit now. Not too sure they're too happy with the conditions. And of course, when you get standing water, you never know what's underneath. I've seen so many accidents in the past. It does get a little bit dangerous when you have that standing water. You think it's just perfect road underneath. Hit a hole, bang, you're down. One rider there from Parkete Valkenburg. No jacket on, shake of the head from Zangerlik. A lot of riders struggling with their circulation in their hands, and that's so important, like I was just mentioning a moment ago, when trying to put your jacket on. And still, Vincent Dorn, he's riding with his, like Superman with his cape, struggling to get it fastened. Going to check outside again. Yep, still dry. So thunderstorm, standing water. The finish is dry. That's what you have to kind of concentrate on, get through these tough conditions. So these three riders, after several attacks by many riders, managed to pry themselves off the fronts. The gap went up very quickly initially on the first climb of the day, up the Zudodjus Piggy, which is not only the highest point of the course today, but of course the biggest climb in this year's Tour of Hellas. Yesterday we had kind of two climbs in one. So we did 11.9 kilometres, 5.3% earlier on. Straight after that we had the Karakalithos Tower. And that was a third category climb. So we've had one sprint already at Petra. It wasn't really contested, although Vincent Dorn won that one. And by the looks of things, they may be stopping or neutralising the race with the conditions. Not had any word myself yet. But let's see what happens at the front here. I hope not. But the race has been neutralised. We just saw a moment ago at the peloton, and we're a little bit unhappy with the standing water. The riders the breakaway don't know. Yeah, you can just see Radcliffe, the jury have decided to neutralise the race for the moment anyway, and Radcliffe is asking how long are you stopping for, because we're getting cold. So with the bad weather conditions, it's a thunderstorm. I don't think it was too bad in my opinion. I think it was more the standing water. I've seen this happen. There is a protocol, of course, and rider safety is paramount. But on that note, it's probably better to ride on than to stop, because when you stop you get cold. Radcliffe just saying he's not cold. It's not. It's 14 degrees. That's what he's trying to tell the jury. Everybody's slowing up. We had a little bit of spill there in the peloton. Oh. Some riders are just braking. Bit of a slippery surface. Rider safety is paramount. They've seen the breakaways. The breakaway have gone from the front there, sheltering in the, underneath the buildings there. They're getting changed. I don't think they really know what's happening. It's probably not the best thing to do is to stop the race. In my opinion, the riders are going to get cold. I'd rather just ride on, keep it neutral out the other side, because like I said, it's dry at the finishing line, and hopefully in a few kilometres they'll be out the worst of it. But for the moment anyway, they're piling into this cafe on the right hand side, just like old times. I don't think they'll be stealing any bottles or anything like that from that cafe. So this thunderstorm, it's this standing water that is the problem, more than it's not cold, and races have gone through. You can see Burgess there, he's shivering. It's a ride that rides for BH. Burgess BH in Spain. So now a chance. See this rider here from Monzon, just no cape on, no nothing. You heard from Radcliffe, isn't cold. But some riders do get cold. You can see Burgess was physically shivering. I wouldn't say it'd be the riders would be totally happy with this situation. But with that standing water, there's underlying problems. So it's a forced cafe stop for many of these riders. And for some, it's just about getting into that bag. But they will have 40 kilometres to go to the finish. And there'll be a lot of riders definitely wet, some of them cold, some of them okay. Dylan Grunewager, well, he's in an ice cream shop. I can understand if this was in the mountains, it would be really cold. But 14 degrees. So an opportunity for riders now not to have the danger of trying to pull on jackets and things, just get a change, and hopefully these riders will have changes. These riders here are making the best of it, quite happy, content. That's the problem. The water coming across the roads, you can't see any defects, any holes or anything. only problem I've got now is the riders will start to get cold. This is what happens when you're a finely tuned athlete. I think I used to race at 6% body fat. I think a lot of these riders now, I did get down to nearer 4. But for a lot of these riders, such as the progression of athletes nowadays, and of course there's the immune system when you race at this high level. Now you can just see, just before we paused the race, there was a kind of bunching up in the peloton. There's a few weren't too happy. It does need communication between the riders, the race organising and officials. The problem being, you get all wrapped up, you're cold, you start again, you want to ride fast, you've got 40 kilometres to go, you want to ride fast to warm up quickly, and then when you warm up and you get outside of the storm, you get warm, you want to take your kit off again. It's a difficult day. A chance for a local shop owner to get a picture with Dylan Grunewiggett. There's a few avants there. 6, I think he was in the first stage. A few riders shivering now. There you go. Nice opportunity. Nobody's buying anything. Nobody's getting any money. Yeah, there's a nice prop there. Greek flag. That'll go up in the wall. Grants gets to be told. Creating memories. Keeping the riders safe and warm. And I think a few of the riders inside will be tempted. Well, wherever you are in the world watching, come put the kettle on, have a cup of tea. Just trying to listen to what's happening. You're seeing what I'm seeing and hearing. I'm not getting any other information. So use the motorbike to warm your hands. Again, I'll just reiterate this. This is when you need kind of rider representation, race organisation and the commissars to make a quick decision in the best interests of everybody involved. Tough team mechanic there from Unibet. Titama Rockets come to Greece with shorts and a t-shirt. So did I, but I've not got them on. Let's take another look out. It's still dry at the finishing line. It's still dry, yep. It's not raining. So there's no rain outside. Yeah. The race has been neutralised for the moment anyway, so we'll just wait and see what happens, but definitely at the finish, I've just looked out. But for the moment, I've just given a message to one of the staff members. He will tell me if it rains here, which it isn't at the moment. So we can see that the commissaire is there, talking to one of the experienced riders, Luca Mieskits. So I just hope this decision is made okay, but it sounds as if some of the decisions have been made. So they're calling the riders forwards. So it looks as if we're going to be underway soon. So Dylan Groenewegen, after chatting with Luca Mieskits, they're coming out the cafe now. Get behind the car. You see Dylan Groenewegen, he's waving. I think that's the best. Stopping too long does have its consequences, of course. So the riders that were cold, they've had an opportunity to go back to the car. So I think it was more of the standing water. Bugas there, shivering still. But I'd rather be riding. Okay, so they have rolled off now. So you're in a cafe or buying an ice cream or doing anything, you better get on your bike.
Bit cold in Greece.
Okay, try and sell Greece, why don't you? It's not always cold here, and it isn't cold. It's 14 degrees. You try living in Scotland all year. So they've come out the cafe. The rest of the peloton are already 30 seconds up. So they'll have to stop the race at some point. They'll get them rolling, stop the race at some point, allow the three riders to go away again. And I would assume that they would ride a little bit faster in towards the finish. Again, I'll say that it's dry at the finish. It's been a local thunderstorm. A lot of standing water. And that's where the danger. So just find for the race director a suitable moment to pause the peloton, get the three riders that were away, give them their time back. It's just under 2 minutes. Start the peloton, ride into town, have a sprint final. You don't want to be left behind. Kasmarek of Machowski, Cersei Polski. He must have gone to the toilet. Now you get one rider here that decided to take his speed suit off, put a top on. There he is. So must have been last in the queue. He's probably about a minute down now. This of course happens from time to time in races. We do have weather protocols. But I really do think that this should have been the decision made first. Just roll along, rather roll along than stop. And of course the race cannot get underway until everybody is back. So we'll stop here for the moment, gather everybody. An opportunity to wash your bike. I think for most of these riders, the sooner the better they get going. The quicker this rider can get back, the quicker we can get started. Of course, there's Harold Lopez. I think Ecuador receives its own fair share of bad weather up at altitude and beyond. It's an opportunity for all these riders just to clean their bikes. Come on, the sooner you get there, the sooner we get started. You see some of the cars just kicking up some of this standing water. Oh, it needs a fan to pass and give you another shower when you're already wet. Well, most seem to be taking it in good spirits. It's very difficult when these things aren't prepared. I would think that it could have gone a little bit quicker. Of course, it needs the communication. It needs rider, team manager, commissaire, race organisation to kind of step up and someone making a decision. Of course, when you're listening to a lot of people saying, well, it's too cold, it's too dangerous, you know, can we just ride in? There's a lot happening here. I don't think it's affecting live TV at all, but if that comes into play, then there's productions and timing, and then you have to consider people at the finishing line expecting a finish at a certain time, and there's a lot going on. Bugas. Well, he is really wrapped up in the aluminium. A couple of them really kind of struggling in the cold. Some of them okay. It's very difficult to orchestrate this. 115 riders, 20 teams, 20 managers. Just need someone to make that decision. I've already seen, if you're in the car as a staff member, it's okay, you get a heater in the car, but it's not overly cold. Saritsa coming in handy there for Harold Lopez. Zabok. So here we are. We have a meeting. Hopefully this is quick. Into the team. I actually seen this happen in the Tour of Turkey once, and it was because of the slippy roads. We'd rain in the Tour of Turkey quite a few years ago, and the roads became so slippy that they decided to neutralise the race. Andrew Greipel jumped into the car, everybody else rode, and then he restarted the race. Andrew Greipel got out the car, and the race continued. So from one cafe to another, chuck the locals out, grab their seat. Just bear with us in this, because I believe we will be restarting at some point. Again, I'm not being giving any official information at the moment. I'm just going on what the protocols are and what they should be. He just loves that motorbike, doesn't he? Bet he wishes he was on it. Yeah, for me, just going on a little bit too long now. Everybody piling into this cafe. Don't think any rider at all carries any money with them or phone when they're not allowed to. So it could be a very expensive tab for someone to pick up. The man in the blue top there is our drone operator. So all the drone shots you've seen throughout the Tour of Hellas, he's the man operating it. He really has fallen in love with this bike. Okay, while this is happening, I believe we're just going to show out yesterday's highlights, so it'll give me a bit of time to try and find out some more information. So I think we're going to show tomorrow's yesterday's highlights, and then once the race gets back underway, I'll be back bringing you into the final 40 kilometers of stage 3.
links to their side. You got it. Yeah. Over there. Dat ik dat alle beentjes zie. Nu denk ik aan mij. Deviation? Ja. Oké. Wat is de afleiding?
Τον Μάκη που τσίστηκε και πήγε πολύ πιο παιδί.
Lucas, congratulations, big day, I'm sure, tough race, eh?
Yeah, today was a super nice day. The weather was a bit how you going, but yeah, the final climb was really nice and super happy.
I think you are king of everything, you took everything, I don't know, mountain, points and general classification.
No, I think not the general classification, but there's still some racing to go, so hopefully by the end of the week.
Thank you very much.
Θα το βάλω στην πλάτη μετά, όταν να πάμε απέναντι.
Thank you, wait, you can make something else.
Με το Γερμανό και του έγραφε. Έτσι λέει, γιατί ο αγώνας είναι πληρωμένος. Του έγραφε, το συγκεκριμένο πάνω. We have the award of the jersey of the best young rider of general classification. Βλέπετε η υπέροχη γαλάζια και άσπρη φανέλα. Βλέπετε οι ποδηλάτες είναι πολύ έμπειροι στο να τοποθετούν τις φανέλες. Είναι λοιπόν ο καλύτερος αθλητής κάτω των 23 ετών. Πόντας να πελίσει λοιπόν. Μπράβο. Ο ράχο μας. Ευχαριστούμε θερμά για την ευγενική προσφορά. And now we'll see the ecotinos made from olive branch, a symbol of peace and victory, be awarded to the winner, and some local delicacies from division. Το Εκουαδόρ, ο Ισραηλινός που έχει μεγάλη παράδοση, φίλες και φίλοι, στην ποδηλασία. Δίνουμε λοιπόν δυνατό χειροκρότημα στον Χάρολ Μάρτι Λόπες Γκρανίσο. Και τώρα ο κύριος Ρούσος θα απονείμει τον κόκκινο για το τρίτο ΕΤΑΠ και είναι ο πρώτος στη γενική κατάταξη. Κυρίες και κύριοι, δυνατό χειροκρότημα, Χάρολ Μαρτίν Λόπες Γκρανίσο. Now the outward of the points classification jersey. Μετά από την βροχή που έφαγε, όπως και όλοι οι αθλητές, νομίζω θα είναι ανακουφισμένος που φοράει αυτή τη στιγμή άλλη μια φανέλα. Και το αναμνηστικό δώρο του Δήμου Αράχοβας. Ευχαριστούμε θερμά το Δήμο Αράχοβας. Ευχαριστούμε θερμά για τη συμμετοχή τους.
Well, if you've stayed with us, I have to inform you that the race director and the commissaires have come to an agreement that unfortunately the stage has been cancelled. So there'll be no further action today, unfortunately, due to the standing water and the conditions. So thanks for joining us for most of today's stage, but for the rider's safety, yeah, you can just hear that. They can go to the hotel. But see you tomorrow is the phrase from the staff member there, and it will be tomorrow, stage 4, from near Arctica to the Olympic Village, over 185.95 kilometres. The Queen stage with the most climbing. But unfortunately, stage 3 is cancelled due to the bad weather conditions here in the Tour of Hellas. But please do join us tomorrow, and thanks for viewing today. And we'll all see you tomorrow for tomorrow's stage, and hopefully we'll have some sun here at the Tour of Hellas. Thank you and goodbye.
Κωνσταντίνε.
Πάνω. Κωστή μου επάνω. Έχουν φτιάξει χώρο. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.